I've read some information that say you might want to depend on your circumstances, but you say most people ought to actually wait for the floor. And I'm glad and I give you some time to get that. That second shut out because of there was definitely chance to run out. So between shut and to say is going to be a rough season. Yeah, you see what happened.
Please rise! Let all persons having business before this Superior Court of the Virgin Islands draw nigh and give attention to the investiture of the Honorable Alfonso G. Andrews, Jr. as Judge of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, and the Honorable Yolande C. Brown Ross as Magistrate Judge of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands. God save the United States, the territories of the Virgin Islands, and this Honorable Court.
Please be seated. Good morning to everybody. Oh, this is such a beautiful crowd. But before I start to talk too much, I'd like to now ask Reverend Dr. George Franklin to come forward and do the invocation.
We're going to be doing some singing this morning, yes? Okay. I'm going back. We're going to do something this morning. Say yes, please. Yes. I appreciate you. We're going to sing and pray at the same time. I'm going to say, give you the words we're going to sing, but I'm going to explain them to you. Everybody say ba. Everybody say ba, please. Ba. Everybody say ra, please. Ra. Everybody say ma'at. Ma'at. Okay. Ba is the spirit of our ancestors. Ra is the Most High God. And ma'at I'm going to tell you what ma'at is. Everybody say, Kumbara ma'at, kumbara. Everybody say, kumbara ma'at, Kumbara. One more time, please. Kumbara ma'at. Kumbara. Kumbara ma'at. Kumbara ma'at. Kumbara. You got it? Yes or no, please? Yes. Okay. Ma'at. Ma'at means justice, truth, law, order, balance, and wisdom. These are the things we're going to pray for our justices. For justice, truth, law, order, balance, and wisdom. And so whenever we say ma'at, this is what we mean. This is how we, this is kumba, ra, ma, at. Kum mean come, right? Kum, ba, ra, ma, at. Kum, ba, ra, ma, at. Ma'at means balance. Okay, we can begin. Kum, ba, ra, ma'at. Kumbara, kumbara ma'at. Kumbara, kumbara ma'at. Kumbara ma'at. Kumbara. Now in church, so everybody please stand. We're in the presence of the Most High. Kumbara ma'at. Kumbara. Kumbara ma'at. Kumbara. Kumbara ma'at. Kumbara, oh Lord, kumbara. Okay, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Kumbara ma'at, kumbara, kumbara ma'at, kumbara, kumbara ma'at, kumbara, oh Lord, kumbara justice, kumbara ma'at. Kumbara truth, kumbara ma'at, kumbara law, kumbara ma'at, kumbara, oh Lord, kumbara order, kumbara ma'at, kumbara balance, kumbara ma'at, kumbara wisdom, kumbara ma'at, kumbara, oh Lord. Kumbara. Blessings.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as I said, good morning. Let me look around because I'm about to make some mistakes now, okay? And I just want to make sure everybody that I know, I can acknowledge. Those who I don't know, you're welcome. I want to first thank the family, the friends, and the colleagues of Magistrate Judge Brow and Judge Andrews. Now, having said that, I am required by protocol to acknowledge all the dignitaries here. I got 2 pages of dignitaries. All right, so bear with me. I am obedient and will do my job. First, let me acknowledge our Honorable Albert Bryan Jr., Governor. Our Lieutenant Governor, Honorable Roach. Honorable Reese Hodge, our Chief Justice. Honorable Deborah Watson, our presiding judge. Honorable Harold Willock, the administrative judge. I'm going to take a little leeway and say, and all the other judges of the Superior Court. All right? No disrespect. Our legislature. I understand the Senate President is not here, so I want to recognize Honorable Novell Francis Jr. and all other senators who are present. For our district court, we don't have a long list, so I want to recognize, I see Judge Lewis here. I want to recognize, I don't know if Honorable Chief Judge Malloy is here. And from the Office of the U.S. Attorney, I want to recognize Attorney Delia Smith. I have to say I retired before you were appointed, and I love that St. John is in the house. Thank you, okay? And for the Office of Territorial Public Defender, Attorney Joseph, Samuel Joseph. I don't know if he's here. Virgin Islands Police Department. I want to recognize Sidney Esco. And last but not least, from the Virgin Islands Bar Association, Attorney Nisha Christian Hendrickson. If I left anybody out, I apologize. Somebody's pointing. Attorney O'Brien, I'm sorry. Attorney General, sorry. Attorney General, I apologize. People, this is a rough job, you know. This ain't easy. I apologize, okay? I was honored to be asked by Magistrate Judge Brow Ross and Judge Andrews to be the master of ceremony. I asked them both what would they like for me to do. Attorney Brow Ross says, keep it short. Attorney Andrews says, have some fun. So, I'm going to try to accomplish both. I'd like to start with a quote. Say, O brethren, let deeds, not words, be your adorning. I say that to myself so that I don't talk too much this morning. And hopefully, as the word wisdom has been presented earlier, that some of you might also be wise and take that in consideration. So, at this time, I'd like to do the national anthem march. Thank you.
Please stand.
Please stand. Thank you. this time, I'd like to call to the podium for opening remarks Honorable Harold Willox.
Good morning. Protocol having been established, as I was saying, first let me do this, something I haven't done in a while. We have a stalwart employee who's retiring, thank God. And, I'd just like to give her my appreciation and everything else, along with all the other judges and staff that have retired. They played an immense role in the development and transition of the judiciary. I'm talking about the staff master, better known as Glenda Keynes. Give her a round of applause on her retirement, please. I, for one, I'm going to sort of miss the staff master and her rules, but, civic duty is one of the greatest responsibilities that a citizen can have. And don't worry, I don't speak more than 3 minutes anyhow, so don't worry about it. I look at, in fact, in remembrance, I remember President Obama, and I remember how when he was running for president, just about all the women had a crush on him, and they were talking about how handsome he was and what a great-looking, intelligent person. Right after he became president, and shortly after, you couldn't find one lady or anybody talking about how handsome he was or even what a brilliant young man. I look at the Honorable Governor Albert Bryan. Before he became governor, he had black hair. His hair was black, jet black, if you will. Couple of short ears. And, I look at myself. No, George, not with a big mirror. And, I look at a couple of years, 2-3 years ago, I was 6'3", 6'4", 190 pounds. No, honestly. Right, George? And a couple of years as a judge. So, you see, not only is it a very high stake in terms of service to the public, but it takes a toll on you. And of course, I would be remiss if I don't mention my good friend, George Cannon. Brilliant attorney, brilliant jurist. After, 20 years? MC, this is what you have. So you see, there is a toll in being a civic servant. And having said that, I ask all the family, friends, and the general public to understand that being a civic servant, yes, is a great responsibility, but it takes a toll on someone. It takes a toll on them mentally, physically, and otherwise. So having said that, and I'm now 2.5 minutes, actually a minute over, I wish you all welcome, and please understand that a civic servant is a servant, but it's also a servant that sacrifices a lot, the mind, the body, and everything else. Welcome.
I'm speechless. Truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. I do remember Judge Willock when he was 190 pounds. He's absolutely correct about the toll. I don't know why everybody expects me to behave myself and people come up here and say what they want. So I'm going to be brief and say this. I'm retired now, so whatever I say, they can't fire me. But he's right. One of the things I noticed right away, soon after I retired, was my high blood pressure and cholesterol reduced right away, and it's been mellow ever since. So, I know we are among friends and families, but these are people who have dedicated themselves to this community. And I know that. All of you. I mean, it's not just the dignitaries here. I live in Fredericksburg, so I know everybody, from the people who clean up to the people who sell you the bread in the morning. So with that in mind, let me call our next speaker, who's also from Fredericksburg, Attorney Nisha Kristen Hendrickson.
Good morning, Governor Bryan, Lieutenant Governor Roach, Chief Justice Hodge, judges, the Senate, family, and friends, a pleasant good morning. As Barack Obama once said, one of the challenges of a democratic government is making sure that even in the midst of emergencies and passions, we make sure that the rule of law and the basic precepts and liberty prevail. It is my distinct honor and privilege to be giving remarks on behalf of the Virgin Islands Bar Association. Currently, President Elisha Udwani is unable to be here today. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Nisha Christian Hendrickson. I'm an Assistant Commissioner and the Legal Counsel of the Virgin Islands Department of Labor. However, today I'm representing the Virgin Islands Bar Association as a past president. The Virgin Islands Bar Association is a unified bar that consists of roughly 1,300 members, which was founded in 1956. And I would like to discuss 2 points today in my brief comments. The first is that the rule of law is fragile. As we have seen in recent events, it is the confidence in our judiciary that plays a critical role in the rule of law. And as President John F. Kennedy said, certain other societies may respect the rule of force. We respect the rule of law. The rule of law does more than ensure freedom from high-handed action by rulers. It ensures justice between man and man, however humble and powerful the other. A man with $5 in the bank can account to the corporation with $5 billion in assets, and the two will be heard as equals before the law. And that was a quote by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. As stated, the bedrock of our democracy is the rule of law. That means that we have an independent judiciary, judges who can make decisions independent of the blowings of political winds, and that's by Carolyn Kennedy. Even in present times, President Joe Biden remarked, for far too long, our government and our courts haven't looked like America. And I believe it is time that we have a court that reflects the full talent and greatness of our nation, with a nominee, and in this case with judges, of extraordinary qualifications, and that we inspire all young people to believe that they can one day serve their country at the highest level. And he was speaking of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And second, I am grateful, and I believe we should continue to celebrate that in the Virgin Islands has maintained a tradition, especially in the last 10 years, of incorporating diversity of color, creed, and thought. And this helps to continue to have a more perfect union. According to the American Bar Association, there are 1.3 million lawyers in the United States. There are 1/4 are in 2 states, New York and California. Only 1 in 5 lawyers is one of color, and more than a third, or roughly about 37%, are women. Becoming a judge is not an ordinary progression in the legal system. Today, there are fewer than 40,000 judges nationwide. Less than 35% are persons of color. We differ from other jurisdictions. For example, in Alaska, all 40 of their federal judges, none of whom are persons of color. In fact, there are 16 states that have 104 federal judges, none of which are persons of color. We should not take for granted today the impact of our country and our community and the effect that Judges Brow Ross and Judge Andrews will have today and will have. I can speak from experience when I say representation matters. Now I would like to turn to the persons who celebrate today. The primary purpose behind the term Your Honor, as it is used for judges today, is still to denote a higher stature and additional respect the judges deserve. Judges occupy positions that require them to give unbiased, honest, consistent, and reliable opinions about legal, civil, and criminal matters. So today I must acknowledge the Honorable Alfonso G. Andrews, Jr., and the Honorable Yolande Brow Ross. Judge Andrews is known to be meticulous, a martial artist who's adept in criminal law. He was the youngest judge ever appointed to the Superior Court in his first term. Judge Andrews has a good sense of humor. He loves art and the law. A son of the soil. If you do not catch him in his dojo, he's a master in karate. You can hear him playing wonderful African drums or adorned in prints that reflect African heritage. Judge Alfonso Andrews' first name is the same as another prominent former judge, who was my grandfather, Judge Alfonso Christian. A maverick in his day, as well as he was able to pass the bar before going to law school via an accredited correspondence course, which may be likened today to a class online, similar to the one that you can do at St. Mary's. He was a judge twice before becoming a senior sitting judge. To speak about Judge Yolande Brow Ross, I would echo the sentiments of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who said of Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, with her exceptional qualifications and record of even-handedness, Judge Brow Ross, like the Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, will be a judge who will uphold the Constitution, protect the rights of all Virgin Islanders and Americans, including the voiceless and the vulnerable. She's a true public servant and will be a model jurist. And did I mention she has a good sense of humor too? Judge Brow Ross and I worked together at the Public Defender's Office. And I later worked with her husband, Rupert Ross, who was the director of the Bureau of Information Technology. I have been blessed to know her not only as a co-worker, but truly and indeed as a friend, and at times as a closely adopted sister. Similar to the sisterhood that Associate Justice Jackson has as well. I am honored to be here in both capacities. The investiture ceremony signifies and consigns our community's support and the confidence that's invested in judges. Donning the mantle of accountability, they also pledge to bestow their duties at the best of their abilities. The rule of law, defended by the independent judiciary, plays a crucial function by ensuring that civil and political rights and civil liberties are safe and the equality and dignity of citizens are not at risk. None of us got here where we are solely by pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. We got here because somebody, a parent, a teacher, an Ivy League crony, or a few nuns, bent down and helped us pick up our boots. And that's by Justice Thurgood Marshall. However we got here today, I know that everyone will say, without exception, that we are proud on behalf of all to share this historic moment in U.S. Virgin Islands history. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I'm proud of you, okay? At this time, I'd like to call our next speaker. I'm assuming that, I shouldn't assume things, but Senator Novo Francis, are you going to speak on behalf of the legislature? Okay, I assume right. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Reverend Clergy, Honorable Governor Albert Bryan Jr., Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach, Chief Justice Reese Hodge, Presiding Judge Deborah Watlington, other justices, judges, magistrates, Senator Genevieve Whitaker, and other senators, former, present, and aspiring, judicial staff, family, friends, and well-wishers. It is my pleasure to be here this morning representing Senate President Donna Frey Gregory, who due to inter-island travels could not be present this morning. Today, I am privileged and proud to celebrate our newest judge, the Honorable Judge Alfonso Andrews Jr., and our newest magistrate, Judge Yolande Brow Ross. I know that they have the best interests of the people of the Virgin Islands at heart, and I'm certain that they will be a welcome addition to the court. This joint investiture marks a historic moment in your careers and is an accomplishment of a professional career milestone. For Judge Andrews, I must note that this return to the bench is a second historic moment in his career. Judge Andrews and Magistrate Brow Ross, each of you were chosen to serve because of your professionalism, your devotion to the law, and your tireless efforts to pursue justice. As you are publicly invested as magistrate and judge in the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, you have evolved from practicing law to being an arbiter of justice. You will no longer be a prosecutor or a defender. Instead, today you'll move from arguing for a single purpose to listening to both sides present their arguments before you. Justice is the foundation and the basis of a civilized society, and you will now join the ranks of those responsible to ensure that our judicial system functions appropriately. Decisions you make will immediately impact the lives of Virgin Islanders for years to come. Our request as members of the 34th Legislature is that as you take this responsibility, you be deliberate in ensuring that justice is not delayed or denied. The post you are about to undertake is one of the highest honor and respect, and is up to you to revere your appointment with humility, with fairness, and without bias. On behalf of Senate President Donna Fred Gregory, my colleagues and I join in offering congratulations to you as you formally assume your duties. May you continue to serve meaningful. May God bless you. May God bless the Virgin Islands. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to invite to the podium the Governor of the United States Virgin Islands, Honorable Albert Bryan, Jr.
Good morning. Please be seated. Good morning, Honorable Reese Hodge, Justice. Good morning, Lieutenant Governor Roach. Good morning, Presiding Judge Deborah Watlington, Administrative Judge Harold Willocks, other members of the judiciary. Good morning, Honorable Wilma Lewis. Family, friends, everybody else, good morning. Good morning. Y'all look like y'all still asleep. Drink coffee, not bush tea. You know, I was just in there saying, I'm so glad today because this is the one thing I don't have to speak at, and I'm on the podium. Two things I want to say today. Well, maybe more than two. But I'm going to be brief. The first thing I want to say is, you notice I recognize Justice Hodge first, because in the court, the protocol, he's actually the governor of the judicial branch. Yeah. Somebody else to blame something on. I want you to make sure, because people always call and complain about the court to me. I was like, you know, these are co-equal branches of government. And Novell, Senator Francis, and Senator, I always call him by the first name, sorry, Senator Fred Gregory, they're the ones to blame on that side. I only control the executive branch, okay? Just get the blaming straight. Tregenza and I, right? So I want you to look to your left and look to your right. Well, this is St. Croix. This is the Virgin Islands. And as I look out among you, I feel such a sense of warmth, and I'm so happy that you came here today to celebrate two awesome Virgin Islanders. It's important because most of the time when we get together like this, somebody ain't breathing, right? Most of the times there's at funerals where we see people. We have to show up to celebrate the people that are doing awesome things in our life every day. So thank you for coming today. Secondly, I want to echo the sentiments of Judge Willocks. I was going to say Harold. But because I do want to thank those of you in the judiciary, in the Attorney General's office, public defenders, that have chosen public service. There was a time when people used to say attorneys are a dime a dozen. It's not so anymore. Like, we really need good attorneys in public service. You could ask the AG, and you could ask anybody who's serving now, government, we just have such a lack of those. And we don't pay top dollar. These people could be other places making a lot more money, trust me. I have a hard time convincing people to even come for judgeship. So I want you to give all of them a round of applause for dedicating their lives. The last thing is how close we are and how we are all so knitted together, you know. Every time I see the Honorable, I got to call her Honorable now, not Yolande. I remember her, like, down at Gallows Bay, you know, and her dad, like, me and Judge Willox and her father have went through cases of soda down there in Gallows Bay. And if you knew her father, you knew she had to have a wonderful sense of humor. Such a great guy, and I know he would be so proud today. And then the whole married to a cabinet member. I mean, talk about power couple, huh? I mean, yeah. I mean, in the Virgin Islands, we say we eat our young, but here's an example of 2 our young people that we have supported, and look what tremendous things they are doing. I mean, this is the Brow family, like Brow Soda and Ross, like, that's like Crucian royalty. It is. I mean, like, was the marriage arranged? It is just an awesome thing because it keeps our culture alive. It shows us best of us, all that we can be, and we support them. Judge Andrews, you know, when I came to appointing him back to the bench, it wasn't really much to think about. I mean, here's a guy that dedicated his life to public service. Whether it was protecting us in the federal courts or serving as a judge. And he was a bright, upcoming judge, you know. Politics is a mess bowl, I'll call it that, but it's right now, and he's right back where he's supposed to be, serving the people of the Virgin Islands. And as you look at our judiciary, they serve us in so many different ways. Not only, they're just not on the bench, they're in our community. And, you know, I get upset sometimes because I'm hardcore, I like prosecutors, I'm a lock 'em up kind of guy. But I appreciate the balance that our court has created in being able to look at our young men and judge those who are truly criminals and those who just making some bad choices. Giving people time to figure life out and giving other people some time to sit in their mess for a little while in jail. So thank you all for all that you do. We appreciate you, and congratulations. And don't remember, public service is best. Have a great day.
I got to bring the mic down. You know, I didn't say anything before the governor got up here to speak. But let me repeat one of my quotes. Truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. So for those of you thinking that him and Willox and Brow, the father, was drinking sodas, I got another word for y'all, okay? And let me say this. I love Yolande Brow Ross' dad. Not to say that her mother and her sisters are not good people, but he was a good man. The governor better be glad that he ain't around because he didn't have nice words for politicians, okay? And the governor knows that. So, with that in mind, let me now introduce our next speaker. And of course, you already heard me said that St. John is in the house. And I'm going to tell y'all now, this gray hair is not, I didn't dye this to make myself look wise, okay? This is real gray. And I actually knew this young woman when she was a little girl, but I didn't know because there's a lot of little girls in St. John when I lived there back in 82 and 83. So I'm proud of her, and I'd like to welcome her to come to the podium, our U.S. Attorney, Attorney Delia Smith.
Good morning. Good morning. I look to my left. I see our esteemed governor. Good morning, Governor. Our esteemed Supreme Court Justice. Good morning, Judge Hodge. Our esteemed leader of our legislature, Mr. Francis. I see Mr. Willock. Good morning. And I agree, you're just 193 pounds. I agree. I look to my right and I see just a mirror image of all that I've always dreamt to be. A woman among the legal community. You know, yes, there are a few men sprinkled between. But good morning and welcome. It is an honor. It is an honor. Good morning, Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Roach. Good morning. Good morning, fellow Crucians. I know I'm the only St. Johnian in this room. I come before you, and I will tell you that I am so filled. I'm almost overwhelmed. I brought my tissue because if you see a tear, it's only because my heart is so filled with joy. It's so filled with pride. I'm extremely proud and happy to be a part of the ceremony. And most people who know me personally will tell you the only time I burst into tears is when Neiman Marcus has a last call sale. But this one, it beats all. Good morning to my dear friend, Miss Denise George. We come a long way. We've come a long way. I would like to start by saying that today is a day that the Lord has made. And let us rejoice and be glad in it. I come from the little tiny island of St. John. We always accuse the Virgin Islands of forgetting that we are the best of the Virgin Islands. But nonetheless, it is an overwhelming joy to be here today to introduce to you my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Alfonso Gerard. What's your last name again? Mr. Andrews. Again, my name is Delia Smith. Oh, I'm sorry. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Miss Lewis. Good morning, Miss Lake. Good morning, Jessica. It's so wonderful to see you. Good morning, Judge Gums, Cardi. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Narcotis. Yes, good morning. It's a pleasure. I come before you, such a distinguished crowd, to introduce to you my friend and trusted colleague, Alfonso Gerard Andrews, as Judge of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands. At the outset, I wished to make it clear that my support is based solely on my personal knowledge and belief, and my views do not represent those of any office for which I'm currently employed. They made me say that. Please allow me to introduce Judge Alfonso Andrews. Since 2005, I've known he's no longer an attorney, he's a judge. I have known Judge Andrews. He is a friend and a highly respected member of our legal community. Over the past 17 years, I have had numerous occasions to work and observe Judge Andrews. He has practiced before the District Court of the Virgin Islands, before the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, before the Territorial Court of the Virgin Islands, and he is engaged in legal and social, we have engaged in legal and social discussions regarding our justice system and the path of our community must take to maintain a safe and prosperous quality of life. I've also had many opportunities to observe Judge Andrews interact with family members, with friends, with colleagues. His passion for the people of this territory, it's immeasurable. Most importantly, Judge Andrews is a judicial warrior. He loves the law, and he is committed to seeking justice at every instance. The position of judge of the Superior Court carries tremendous responsibilities and therefore afforded to only a few. To hold this position, one must first be legally competent to attend to the people's judicial business. Judge Andrews' over 30 years of trial practice in state, territorial, and federal court will serve him well on the bench. He has a strong command for the rules of evidence, the rules of procedure, and the courtroom dynamics. As most of his colleagues will attest, we all aspire to be like him and benefit significantly from his leadership. Beyond legal acumen, however, it is important to also recognize that the judiciary plays a key role in preserving the practices of justice. As the Code of Judicial Conduct states, an independent, fair, and impartial judiciary is indispensable to our legal justice system. Based on my observations and interactions with Judge Andrews, I submit to you that he is an independent thinker, and he has always strived to be fair in his practice of law. I expect that he will continue to interpret and apply the law justly and fairly, and that he will be unimpeded by extrajudicial influences. Judge Andrews is a dedicated self-leader and selfless leader with an unwavering commitment to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. He is determined to be unchanged by the world and instead fights to change it for the betterment of us all. These are the qualities that has prepared him for this moment. Judge Andrews left the U.S. Attorney's Office sometime in 2020, and it was a period of mourning for myself and my colleagues, but we didn't lose a legal partner. We gained a judicial giant, and I know that he will continue to serve our community. He's always a phone call away, always a phone call away. And as the governor stated, this is a very, it's not a thankless job, but it's impossible to communicate the level of dedication, the countless hours. There's no 8 to 5 in the judicial practice. It's whenever, wherever, and however long it takes to seek justice. And I am so proud, again, to stand before you, all the way from my little island of St. John, to bring this message that you have gained a warrior, a hero. And I pray that you will continue to pray for him, because prayer is all we need. Even us, all we need is prayer. So keep lifting us up in prayer. When you see us, always say hello. And I know personally, a judge puts the fair God in me, okay? But it's because we must get it right. We don't have two chances to get it right. It's always just that one chance. And that's where the preparation, the time, and the dedication comes in. And I pray that this community will continue to embrace Judge Andrews, as well as Judge Ross. It's an honor to meet you, even though it's my first time. Congratulations and welcome. And thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you. And I'd now like to invite the Deputy Chief Territorial Public Defender, Hannibal O'Brien, to come to the podium. Thank you.
Protocol having long been established, good morning. Good morning. I just didn't want to take the chance of pissing anybody off. Today, I stand here now with the challenge of wondering what would be the appropriate words to express the level of pride, the level of emotions. I wondered if I would have to apologize for being emotional myself. But it's okay for a man to cry. I'm going to do something unusual. I actually am going to read. You see, Yolande made me promise that I wouldn't reveal too many embarrassing moments. And I'm sure everybody else is saying, keep it short. So I only have this one page. Today's festivities presents us with an opportunity to come together as a family, to celebrate the accomplishments of one of our own, in fact, of two of our own. But with respect to Yolande, it's in fact a homecoming. You see, Yolande is a court brat. You may recall her father, Warren Brow, was the court's jury manager for many years. Although he is no longer with us, I am certain that his spirit fills this room. Many of you, past and present members of the court family, remembers the bright, quick-witted, and impetuous young lady that would grace these halls from time to time, as she was a daddy's girl. She literally grew up here. Yolande only left the court to pursue her education at Duke University and later at Tulane University School of Law. And right after graduation from law school, she came home to the court to clerk for the Honorable Judge Edgar D. Ross. That's where I met her. Some almost 25 years ago now. Our first meeting was interesting. I recall walking into Judge Ross's chambers, and somehow between here and there, we got into a discussion. No, actually, it was an argument about some point of law. This was the first of many such discussions that her and I would have. Boy, she had stamina. Anyway, eventually, we wound up studying for the Virgin Islands Bar together, along with Commissioner Ricky Evangelista and attorney Nathaniel Bates. Oh, there's another side. Let me tell you, she was almost as annoying as myself in how she nitpicked at details. I quickly realized that she was not average. I mean, she worked over the issues presented by each question ad nauseum, just the way I would want my lawyer to do if I ever needed one. It would be some years before our paths crossed again. And it wasn't until, I think it was January of 2010, that she became a member of my team. and more importantly, a member of the Office of the Territorial Public Defender's family. And once you're in that family, you always remain in that family. And we have a broad family. Nisha, Judge Willocks, presiding judge, Judge Meade, Simone. Oh yeah, we're all over the place. While at our office, she proved herself repeatedly as a dedicated and dogged defender of the rights of our clients. She also was a consummate team player. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of Chief Samuel Joseph to express his apologies for not being here as he's out of the territory. But he asked me to convey to you our heartfelt appreciation for your many years of exemplary service. Let me tell you, I can't tell you how many nights, emphasize the word nights, that I'd be in my office and I'd hear the door bust open and in rushes Yolande. And she's hustling. And it's after 9 o'clock at night. And she's mumbling as she goes to her office, I gotta get ready for Judge Willocks' calendar. But on a personal note, you know, we heard a lot about dedication and commitment. I don't even know if I had the right to ask. And looking back on it, I probably didn't have the right to ask. But in 2019, I asked, not told, I asked my colleagues if they would assist me in a trial. This wasn't you say, what's the big deal? This was no ordinary trial. This was a trial that took place on the island of St. Thomas. This trial took place for over 6 weeks. If we were lucky, we spent 2 days home. But usually Seaborn didn't cooperate, so we'd have to leave on a Saturday morning and turn around on Sunday night and leave our family. I don't know if I really didn't have the right to ask. A woman who was a wife, a mother of 3 small children. But I'm so glad you said yes. I never really got an opportunity to thank you. But Rupert, you're a much better man than I am. Because I would have came to my office and asked me what I was thinking. The truth is, there's no set of words that one can offer to say how much you're going to be missed. The only thing I ever had to worry about where it came to Attorney Ross was whether or not I was going to have to run down to the court to defend her for contempt of court because of the faces that she'd make in front of the court. Now, to those of you lawyers who will practice in front of her, she will give you an indication of what she thinks about your argument by just looking at her face, which is a key. But anyhow, I am humbled by the fact that I stand here and I feel a lot like a papa, because not only is Judge Ross a disciple of the Public Defender's Office, but so is Magistrate Morris, who is part of our team. Without further ado, I introduce to some and I present to others Magistrate Judge Yolande C. Brown-Ross. See, I didn't embarrass you.
When Attorney O'Brien started getting tearful, I took my tissue out. I was waiting to pass it to him, man. I was like, but then I realized, oh, this tissue was given to me by Judge Waddington, so I put it back in my pocket now. But look, anybody who needs some tissue, we got plenty over here, okay? So let me know. I'm all right with people crying. This is a good occasion to cry. I'd like to, at this time, call the Honorable Deborah Waddington, presiding judge for the commission of office.
I have to bring it down too. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. To all to whom these presents shall come, greetings. Know ye that reposing special trust and confidence in the integrity, ability, and discretion of Alfonso G. Andrews, Jr., Esquire. Not me, the Honorable Albert Bryan, Jr., the governor, nominated and with the advice and consent of the 33rd Legislature of the United States Virgin Islands, appointed him to be a judge of the Superior Court of the United States Virgin Islands for the District of St. Croix, effective January 4th, 2021 to January 3rd, 2026, and do authorize and empower him to execute and fulfill the duties of that office according to law, and to hold the said office with all the rights and privileges thereunto legally appertaining according to Title IV, Section 72 of the Virgin Islands Code. In testimony whereof, Governor Albert Bryan, Jr. set his hand and caused the seal of the government of the United States Virgin Islands to be hereunto affixed, done at the city of Charlotte Amalie, St. Thomas, on the 17th day of December, in the year of the Lord, 2022, by the Governor of the Virgin Islands, Albert Bryan, Jr. To all to whom these presents shall come, greetings. Know ye that reposing special trust and confidence in the integrity, ability, and discretion of Yolande Brown-Ross, I, with the advice of the Magistrate Selection Panel and the consent of the judges of the Superior Court of the United States Virgin Islands, do hereby appoint her to be a magistrate judge of the Superior Court of the United States Virgin Islands for the District of St. Croix, effective February 27, 2022 to February 28, 2026, and do authorize and empower her to execute and fulfill the duties of that office according to law, and to hold the said office with all the rights and privileges thereunto legally appertaining pursuant to Title IV, Section 123 of the Virgin Islands Code. In testimony whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, of the United States Virgin Islands, to be hereunto affixed. Done on the city of Christiansted, St. Croix, this 25th day of October, in the year of our Lord, 2022, by the presiding judge, Deborah Smith Watlington, and attested by Regina Peterson, Administrator of Courts.
At this time, I'd like to invite to the podium the Honorable Reese Hodge, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of U.S. Virgin Islands.
Put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Alfonso G. Andrews, Jr.,
I, Alfonso G. Andrews, Jr.,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support, obey, and defend
I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
applicable to the Virgin Islands
applicable to the Virgin Islands
and the laws of the Virgin Islands,
and the laws of the Virgin Islands,
that I will administer justice without respect to persons, and do equal right to the poor,
and
to the rich, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform all of the duties incumbent upon me as Judge of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, with fidelity. So help me God. Congratulations. Put the robe on you. Put the robe on you. Andrew, sign this one. Sign this. You're going to be holding that for a while. Just call him for him. Call him.
Sound like to call Magistrate Rouse to the podium?
You place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
And repeat after me.
Yes, sir.
I, Yolande C. Brow Ross,
I, Yolande C. Brow Ross,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
applicable to the Virgin Islands
applicable to the Virgin Islands
and the laws of the Virgin Islands,
and the laws of the Virgin Islands,
that I will administer justice
that I will administer justice
without respect to persons
without respect to persons,
and do equal right to the poor
and do equal right to the poor
and to the rich,
and to the rich,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform all of the duties incumbent upon me
perform all of the duties incumbent upon me
as a magistrate judge
as a magistrate judge
of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands
of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Yolande, sign this one.
Excuse me, may I hug you?
That was wonderful. So let me stick to my theme. Truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. So I want to let Attorney Smith know there's another St. Jonian in the house, which is Brow's mother, okay? So you ain't the only one here, okay? All right? And at this time, before I call Judge Andrew here to give his response, which we've all been waiting for, I just got to say a little brief thing here. A little brief thing. A little brief thing. He got a little gray hair. I got a lot of gray hair. I have to sort of tell people my first interaction with Judge Andrews, which will again remind you of my age. Judge Andrews was in law school when I was an assistant attorney general, and I needed him as a witness. Some of you might not know that he was, at an earlier time in his life, worked for Internal Revenue Service. And he was an important witness, what they would call essential witness. And I called him up while he was in law school and went over the case with him that I had. I won that case because of Judge Andrews. But as you all know, sometimes when you win a case, the other side appeal. And of course, it went to the Third Circuit. And I won that case in the Third Circuit. So my first interaction with Judge Andrews was a very competent, extremely essential witness in a case that I, at the time, had a big ego. I've worked on that over the years. It's not as big as it used to be. And when I'm around all these dignitaries, I feel real small, okay? So I say that to say he's always been involved in providing a service to this community. And I can tell you, working with him as an attorney when he was on the opposite side, where he was a fierce warrior, even though he has a nice smile. And most of you think of him with a person with a sense of humor. I've seen him when that humor wasn't there. But I cannot tell you how grateful I am that someone like him is willing to serve this community. Anybody who knows him know that he is truly dedicated to the Virgin Islands. And so with that brief introduction, I know there's been greater ones. I'd like to now invite Judge Andrews to the podium for his response.
Recognizing the establishment of protocol, let me say good morning to all. It is indeed an honor, a privilege, and a joy to be here on this auspicious occasion. I feel like I have come full circle. My first interaction with the Superior Court occurred a very long time ago. Some of you may recall when the Superior, at the time was the Territorial Court, was in the Torah building in Christiansted, in Golden Rock. And I remember going into that court when I was probably a freshman or sophomore in college, CBI in St. Thomas. And I remember a police officer actually stopping me. He claimed I was driving somewhat in excess of the speed limit. And he was able to determine that by this little gizmo at the time they call a radar. And so I didn't make a big fuss. I said, yeah, I probably was going over the speed limit. So I got a ticket, then I went to court. And then I went to court. The judge, he's speaking to all of these individuals that are there for traffic violations, and he says, you know, this is how it works. If you plead guilty, you wouldn't have a trial. And just so you know, my practice is I will impose a fine of $5 more than whatever you're speeding, how fast you were going. Okay. So, simple, I went and I pled guilty. And the judge was actually none other than Raymond L. Finch, who some of you may know. And I never told him this story. And so you would be surprised when you saw the heads turned when Judge Finch imposed a fine of $85. You know the radar must have been malfunctioning. That was my first interaction with the Addendum Territorial Court, and I was here again as a summer intern or summer clerk while in law school. And at that time, I clerked with Judge Silverlight, and some of you may know him. I clerked here with him, and I was fortunate enough to be able to come back and clerk with the court here after I finished law school, so I returned again as a law clerk. I left. I was a local prosecutor, federal prosecutor, and then back as a judge for one term. And then I left again. You know, as a prosecutor. And now here I am again. It's as if I have returned home. And so for that, I wish to thank the Almighty One, the Creator, without whose will nothing moves. And so obviously, since we're all here and we move, we are alive. And that's something to be grateful for. I also want to thank those that have made it possible for me to be here. Those working behind the scenes to convince the second branch of government that I should be nominated to go to the bench. And that came to pass, obviously, in 2020. So I want to thank you, Governor Bryan, for having confidence in me and giving me the opportunity to once again return to this prestigious court. I also have to give thanks to the first branch of government, which was then the 33rd legislature. For, of course, without their overwhelming support, I won't be here either. And so I give thanks to them as well. I also want to thank my family members. My wife, I think you've met her, Valencia. And just so that the truth be told, Valencia is a Centomian. So I know we have some Centomians in here, but it's no offense to the Centomians or be it the males or the females in St. Thomas, but truth be told, she actually left St. Thomas and traveled 40 miles across to come to find a qualified husband. And you've also met my daughter, Rukia Andrews, who's been a source of inspiration to me and sometimes a headache to me. She's an only child, but the reality is she's almost like 2 or 3. And so you know how that can be. She always espouses a sense of logic, which is okay. But then there's the unrelenting sarcasm. But thank you for that, Rukia, in any event. And also, but individual that has been close to the family for all the years and assisted me even with the raising of Rukia, and that's my mother-in-law, Sabrina Plask. I don't know if you're here. Where are you? Yeah, so she's back there somewhere. I also like to recognize my mother, Daphne Andrews. She's not here, but I am guarantee you she's here in spirit, and she's viewing these proceedings virtually. Thank you for putting up with me from birth to now, and for continuously, I guess, being my mother and reminded me how I need to be careful and I need to rest, and to remind me on a weekly basis. Another source of love and care. I'd also like to recognize my brother. I think he's in here, Akil. You could stand up, raise your hand. Akil. We call him Akil, you know, but he's actually, Akil, his birth name was actually Ralph, until he conspired with a certain unnamed family lawyer to change his name officially to Akil. But just so you know, he didn't actually give up all his name. His name is actually Akil Ralph Andrews. So if you were to call him Ralph, it means you know him from a long time ago, and you wouldn't be incorrect. So Akil had been my source of practicality. I was more of the, well, let's make sure this is plumb and this is, you know, properly secure. And just knock it up and get it done. And sometimes in life that is what you need to do, because precision at times tends to slow you down. So thank you, Akil, for that. And I also want to thank my sisters. I don't have any of them here, but they are viewing virtually. My baby sister, Nadine, who has gone through her employment life, and she's actually retired. Before me, I still don't understand how she did that, but she did. So she has been a source of information as well as we grew up in the countryside. And particularly once I went to Maryland in law school, Nadine was the part of the stress relief. That she's the person who called me and says, hey, you know, we have a homie party. And so for those of you that don't know, when you leave the Virgin Islands as a person who has never lived any place else, all of a sudden you become aware, and you begin to recognize that all of us in the Caribbean are one. And when you get there, it doesn't really matter you come from St. Thomas, St. John, St. Kitts, Antigua, everybody in the Caribbean, we are one people. And so when you say we have a homie party, that's what that means. You can go there, you can, you know, have fun with your Caribbean friends. It also means, and it gives you an opportunity, at least for me, to talk like me. And when I say that, because when I went to the United States, I had a hard time, quite frankly, communicating with the brothers and sisters, actually individuals in the state and the mainland, period. And even though I would speak standard English, unless I would sort of, you know, add a little twang or something to my voice, they couldn't understand what I was saying. And you know, the strange thing about it, you see a person sitting here in the courtroom, a friend of mine, a classmate of mine, who went to St. Mary's with me and also ended up in law school, surprisingly. And that's Attorney Maurice James sitting right in the back of the courtroom. I couldn't understand how those United States would understand Maurice. Because if you know Maurice don't young for anybody. She'd speak standard English, yes, which I was doing, but her accent was strong. But somehow, I don't know what she did, maybe it's the frequency or whatever, but they could understand her. I had to twang onto it. And so going down to my sisters was a joy and a stress release that I could leave law school, travel 30 miles. I know that seems like a long distance, and it is here, but when you're in the States, 30 miles really is just nothing. You jump on the parkway, and in 30, 40 minutes, you're there, even if you're not speeding. And so I thank her for that, and I also thank my sister Cheryl, that's my older sister, for taking me in when I went to law school. It was the first time I was living alone. I got an apartment, and when that happens to you, you realize how many things you've taken for granted. Basic things. Well, you have an apartment, it's going to be unfurnished. Really, what's that? Well, you need to get a bed, you need to get a couch, and unless you plan to buy food every day, it may be nice if you buy some pots and pans. And these are some basic things that you may not think about. You need to get like a pillow, and a towel, wash rag, and so forth. And Cheryl was my go-to person for that, and she knew where to go to get the deals, and so forth. So thank you, Cheryl, for all of that assistance. And let me see what I have in here as family. I think I have my uncle in here. Is my Uncle Roy here? I think I saw my Uncle Roy someplace in here. No? Okay, maybe. Oh, okay. See, I think he's on the other side. I have 2 aunts, and they are viewing virtually. That's my Aunt Myrtle Daniel, and Dorothea Vivican. And I also like to recognize my cousins, and so I think I see some here, so you should stand if you're here. I see, you can stand, don't be shy. I see some Andrews, some Hendersons, James, Thomases, and so forth, Forbes and whatnot. Thank you. And I'd also like to recognize my goddaughters. I have a couple of those as well. Some, I don't know if I have any that's here. Is Shanaday here? Ah, there's Shanaday in the back. There's Shanaday, and is Dana here? I see Dana. Is Dana Darling here? She's hiding. I don't see Dana. Okay. So there's Dana Darling, and I have 3 of them, 3 females. One in New York, Tema Emmanuel. One in Puerto Rico, Shanaday Sherelle Herbert. And one in Texas. Her name is Anut Mary Christopher. And a godson in Florida, which is Ajamo King. I'd like to recognize those as well. Wherever it may appear that I am, I want you to know that I am there only because I stand on the shoulders of others. Those that are here and those that from the past. And so I continue to give thanks to all. And when I say all, I'm including the ancestors. Those that I know and those that I did not. Because we're all connected. That connection doesn't cease. And I'd like to just mention a few. One is Alfonso G. Andrews Sr., also known as Job, who I know is here in spirit, who always taught me I should try to stay on the right side of things, who always taught me to be circumspect as you move through life, which means you now have to be aware of your surroundings, who taught me a sense of independence. Alfonso Andrews Sr. did everything. Carpentry, electricity, plumbing, whatever needed to be done, he would put his foot down and do it. And that gave me a sense of doing for self and of determination and also of striving for excellence. I remember when I was a child, he told me about his first job. His first job was shoveling sand into the back of a truck as a teenager. And he was paid 60 cents per day. When he retired in the late 1970s, he was the assistant commissioner of property and procurement. And so he served as an inspiration to me. And I also want to mention my grandparents, Egbert and Pearl Thomas. They've also been a source of guidance for me. And I have to mention a past relative, and his name is Attorney Ashley Andrews. And I say that again because you'd be amazed how little things can affect your destiny, essentially. And so when I was an internal revenue agent, I would often be talking about going to law school and taking the LSAT and so forth. And the word, and it's a small committee, it got around. And one time when we were at a beach party, family beach party, Ashley comes up to me and he says, "Hey, I hear you're going to law school." I says, "No, I was thinking about going to law school." And his words were, "Stop thinking and go." And that gave me inspiration because I was concerned that if I left my job, went to the States, and this is a reality, and you get your degree, you come back, and then you may not be able to get a job. And I was concerned because the mentality back then, and I'm not so sure that it has changed, is you have to come from outside to be qualified. And that's an issue that at that time we had to deal with, and it's probably still an issue now. But Attorney Andrews, Ashley Andrews assured me, he says, "Look, you just go to law school, you get your degree, and when you're done, you can come to New York and work with me," because he had a law firm in New York. And so I went to law school. Of course, history changed because by the time I got to the Superior Court and was able to work here as a law clerk and get the opportunity to come back home, that was it. I was satisfied coming back and contributing to the community here. But so thank you, Cousin Ashley, for that. I also want to give thanks to all of my teachers. Teachers, I think, serve a very important role in our community, in any community. Without teachers, many of us would be ignorant. They are our educators, and that is a crucial role that they play within the community. Without them, many of us would not achieve what we have. And so I want to thank all my teachers. I think there are two of them here. One is Miss Marshall, my accounting teacher. So you should stand and be recognized. Mr. Marshall may be an elder in the court. This is Central High School. And the one that stood behind her is Miss Maria Schuster. Yes. Miss Schuster taught me in ninth grade. And not much teachers like her back then. I remember when I went to her class, the first thing, I didn't know who she was. I just walked in the door. Class was in there. Strange thing about it is the class was unusually quiet, which in Central High back then is kind of unusual. You hear the noise, but Miss Schuster's class, was quiet. So I walked in the classroom, and before I could take 2 steps, she looked at me, pointed to the door, Andrews, go outside and put your shirt in your pants. It's like, whoa. I didn't even know who she was. And then I found out that she knew my parents, she knew my family, and that's how she was. And then, if she didn't know your family, she found out. Because I remember the first day of school, Miss Schuster went down each child row for row, asking you, so who's your mother? And who is your aunt? I says, okay, so you are Miss Roebuck. Okay, you. Willax, don't even worry about you. You pass. And the Willax was talking about the same how Willax you see right here behind you. They don't make them like Miss Schuster anymore. So I want to thank all of you. I don't know if I don't know if there's another teacher that's here. Who's my next teacher that's here? Lenny Larson, Almut James. I don't see him, but he was my VI history and cultural teacher. Thank you for your contribution, and to all my teachers in Central High School, College of the Virgin Islands, and the University of Maryland at Baltimore. I, as you know, spent the bulk of my practice between the court here and also at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Many years in the U.S. Attorney's Office. I actually was there for about 25 years. And that had given me an opportunity to go to trainings, to practice before numerous judges. There was a long period of time when there was no prominent district judge, at least in St. Croix. And so judges would travel, visiting judges all the time. And so I had an opportunity to practice before them, an opportunity to practice with many different colleagues, AUSAs and so forth. Many great colleagues, like Attorney Ezekiel Jennings, Roland Jarvis, James Hurd, Anthony Jenkins, who was a U.S. attorney at one point, David Nisman, David Atkinson, James Fitzner, brother from St. Thomas, Nelson Jones, of course, U.S. Attorney Smith, Everett Potter, Joycelyn Hewlett, Lorraine St. Croix, Ronald Williams, Angela Tyson Floyd, and most recently, attorneys Houston and Ortiz, and many more. But it's not just the AUSAs, because anyone that works in an office with an admin staff, you know that you can't do it alone. And so I always had a strong, caring admin staff as well. And these are the individuals that would make sure that you do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. Because sometimes the job, it can get, as you've heard, quite tedious, and you may forget things. And so there are those individuals that will tell you, Attorney Andrews, you forget you got to file that motion or that response, and it's due today. Well, it's 4 o'clock, you're telling me now? But of course, with the advent of electronic filing, who cares? I would stay there and I would get it filed, and then I got it filed, and I clocked in by 11:59, right? Then it will be filed on time, and a judge like Judge Lewis, for instance, couldn't hold me in contempt because I filed it late. It was timely filed. And so I want to give thanks as well to the staff that has assisted me, some of who are here, like Diane, Ingrid, Antoinette, Francis, Barbara, Ruth Ann, and those folks. I, as you may know, this is like a second term for me. And every piece of inspiration helps. And so there was a time when my term ended, and my name was not, or at least it was announced that my name would not be submitted for renomination. And there were senators in the 23rd legislature who will remain unnamed, who took it upon themselves to actually try to petition Government House to get the then governor to renominate me for a second term. It wasn't a successful bid, but I want those senators to know that even back then I appreciated their efforts, because the support helps to not only keep you in balance, but to help to instill that confidence and courage to keep going forward. And that support also came from some members of the bar, who will also remain unnamed. But there were some members of the bar who actually took it upon themselves to draft a petition. And they did, and got lawyers to sign the petition. Again, trying to urge the governor to put me back on the bench. And so I thank those unnamed supporters for their support. I had the opportunity to work with, from time to time, assistant attorney generals while at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And all of that helped to get me to where I am, so I want to thank them. And I want to thank the defense bar. So I've practiced before. You heard Attorney O'Brien talk about the saturation, if you will, of the defenders. So I had an opportunity to work with many of them, or I shouldn't say with, but on the other side of many of them. And so I want to thank them for all of those motions and arguments that you made that required me now to oppose and to do the necessary research, because that helped me as well to become a better lawyer. And it didn't really matter whether your motions had merit or not. I still had to respond. And I also, many times, was a recipient of, I would say, pretty hard blows in the courtroom. So you hear Attorney Smith talk about the warrior mode and so forth, but sometimes you need to be in that warrior mode because you actually have a warrior on the other side. And sometimes the warrior fires some hard blows, and so you need to be prepared for that. And so you have assisted in making me stronger, and I think nothing of it because I simply assume that you were zealously representing your guilty clients. I had an opportunity to work with many judges while I was here before, and that has also been a source of inspiration to me. I worked at the time with Judge Ross, Judge Steele, Judge Cabret, who's now in the Superior Court, and over in St. Thomas with Judges Haller, Judge Vern Hodge, Judge Myers, Judge Diazzi, and the judge that has legalized sarcasm, that's Judge Swan. He's been an inspiration as well. And I've had the opportunity to obviously discuss and work besides that. And of course, there's two judges that I've had an opportunity to work under as a law clerk. One, of course, is Judge Finch. I will leave that story alone. Judge Finch is a whole separate story for himself. But I also had the opportunity to work with a judge that, in my view, was a brilliant jurist and possessed, I don't know, one of the most eloquence with respect to articulation. And that was the Honorable Eileen Peterson, who's still with us today. In fact, it was Judge Peterson whose efforts got me here to be a clerk, because when I was a law clerk, summer law clerk, assigned to one judge. Judge Peterson took the position that all the law clerks belong to all the judges. So she decided she was going to assign work to me. She did that. She liked my work, and she then urged Judge Finch to make sure I get hired when I got out of law school. So thank you, Judge Peterson, for that. I want to thank my associates in the martial arts arena. Yes, I've engaged in martial arts as well as sports, and I can tell you, if you practice law, you better have something to balance it. And for me, that was it. It's sort of like a stress release. That, as well as my cultural connection, which was drumming, African drum, African dancing. I see my brother Ned Kara here, who has also engaged me in a lot of dialogue as well as studies with respect to ancient history. And he as well had an ensemble, Netero ensemble. I have opportunity to participate in that with his wife, Chanjira Kahina. And my Dembaya family, I don't know if any of them are here, but that would be folks like Adrian, Aoife, Kaisha, Shanare, who I've had the opportunity to engage in the cultural practices as well. And all the well-wishers that are here as well. I want to thank you all because it's really upon your shoulders that I stand. I want to say that the role of a judge is indeed an awesome role, not to be taken lightly. And because even though you're a judge, you are actually being judged by your community. And the community confidence is crucial to the stabilization of the judiciary. And when that confidence fails, the community suffers. Because if the community does not believe that the judge is applying the law fairly or impartially, then they really don't have any incentive to follow the law. If they don't follow the law, then the whole purpose of why we have the law becomes an issue. It's sort of like obliterated. And that purpose obviously is to avoid chaos and to promote order. And so I am ever mindful of where I stand. You may be aware that judges are governed by a code of ethics. We have 4 canons, and in my view, the most significant one is canon number 1. And that canon says that a judge shall uphold the independence, the integrity, and the impartiality of the judiciary. And so that is a very challenging task, because you have to make your independent decision, free of what others may think, be it in the political arena or wherever. You have to make your decisions being cognizant of potential biases. But it's not just enough to be independent and to be fair. You also have to appear to be fair. And so we have an issue with respect to appearance of impropriety. So you can be a fair judge, you may be issuing a fair decision, but if the community doesn't think so, then we have a problem with respect to the judiciary and the respect of the judiciary. And so the judge obviously as well must avoid those instances in which his or her impartiality may be called into question. A Second Circuit judge named Irvin Common said this about the Supreme Court, but I think it's relevant to any judge in any court. And he said the Supreme Court's only armor is the cloak of public trust. And its sole ammunition is the collective hopes of the society. So this transcends the letter of the law, and it touches the hearts and the souls of the people that we serve. And so I vow to you to apply the law in an independent, in a fair, and an impartial manner. And to the lawyers who will be practicing or coming before me, let me say that it is reason that will prevail in the courtroom. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, before I call up Honorable Magistrate Judge Brow Ross, I'd like to just briefly say a couple of things. I know y'all want to stretch and jump up, and we halfway there. No, we're almost finished. There have been a lot of things said today. One, I want to repeat. I don't think this is probably the first time you'll hear me quote Governor Bryant. Brow's spirit, which is her father, is here. If anybody know Brow's dad, you see the reincarnation right there, okay? And as I told you before, I love Brow's dad. The other thing, I haven't said this publicly, but people who know me probably already aware of this. I love the Ross family. We go way back. And I really love the fact that not only is attorney, I don't call her Judge Brow Ross, I don't call her Yolande. I refer to her, and since I've known her as a little girl, as Brow, because that's her dad. And I always refer to her dad as Brow. I'm a father. I got a girl. I got a son too. I won't go no further than that. But his spirit is here, and I can't imagine him being more proud than now seeing his daughter where she's at. But I'm going to tell you something else. She's a good mother. Now, you think being a judge is difficult? You think being married is difficult? Try being a mom. A mom of 3 beautiful young people. Man, I'm so proud of Brow that she got 3. I actually think that God is blessing her. She knows that's a punishment and a slap in the backhand, but she... But you don't know how proud I am of her doing all of this. I'm sorry I have to speak from my heart because I knew her dad. And if his spirit, and I believe in our ancestors, I pray for our ancestors, and I feel his spirit here, and I just want to let you all know Brow is here because you're about to hear him speak right now. So let me invite Magistrate Judge Yolande Brow Ross to the podium.
Thank you guys so much. And I can thankfully say protocol having already been established, I don't have to go through that. Unfortunately, I do have to say good afternoon as opposed to good morning. So what that means for everybody is that I will try to make my comments as brief as possible. I have a lot of people to thank, but having watched Judge Andrews go through his list, what I've decided to do is do it this way. So I struggled with what to say today. I actually struggled to be here today. For those who know me and have had to put up with me for the last couple of weeks since it was announced that we were doing this, I have not been an easy person to get along with because I did not want to do it. And so I do apologize to those members of the court staff who had to put up with my side looks and slight threats and commentary. And this one called my aunt on me and had me locked away to promise to be here this morning or this afternoon. But I want to thank you guys, my Marshal Velez, who kind of dragged me around the place to make sure that I was where I was supposed to be. Jessica, my judicial assistant, Michael Bocchino, my law clerk, who was encouraging me with ridiculous amounts of effervescence that I needed to be here today. But I realized that part of the difficulty I had with being here was because it made me think about who wasn't here. And everybody's talking about my dad, and God knows I think about him every day. I hear his voice every day. And I could see him here with his chest like this. You know, there are a lot of people who I found out later in life, in my adult life, they would come up to me, "You finished law school?" "Yes." "Everything is good?" "Yes." "Who are you?" "You don't know me?" "No, I don't know you." "Yeah, man." "No, I've never spoken to you before in my life." "You his bro daughter, right?" "Yes." "No, but your father and his good friend, good friend." And I realized that even though he wasn't saying it as much to me, my father's mouth was all over the place with everybody else. So everybody else was in my sauce, in my business. I didn't know that these people knew me, you know, but through the years, I have had people up until about maybe a month ago. I met Mr. Roderick Moorhead, and he was talking to me, and, you know, and I was like, yeah, I know your face, and, you know, you have an awesome voice. "Yeah, man, your father and I damn it no one." I said, "Okay, Mr. Moorhead, it is a pleasure to meet one of my dad's friends." My dad is gone 13 years now, and it's still the strangest feeling ever. But I am blessed to still have my mom, Lydia Thomas Brow. I have my sister, who unfortunately could not be here today. And now we get to the part where I'm here to simply say I'm going to thank my tribe. It is often said that it takes a village to raise a child, okay? And God blessed me with an awesome foundation to start. I had my father, Warren T. Brow. I had my mother, Lydia Thomas. I had my grandparents, Christian Brow and Lucille Williams. If I know Miss Brow, Miss Browie, she used to sell soda up in Christiansted. I had Thomas and Valeria Thomas in St. John. Yes, Attorney Smith, every summer, right? I had that foundation, but as I grew older, my village grew, or what I like to call my tribe grew. My tribe grew through school. My tribe grew through Duke University. I have my Duke family who has supported me through thick and thin. One of them even flew from Florida to be here today, just to be here to support me like they did when I was in school. I have my friends from Tulane Law School. I have my first job as a lawyer. Thank you, Judge Edgar D. Ross, who I clerked for. I have my first job as an attorney. Thank you, Honorable George W. Cannon, Jr. I have my years in public defense work, which, although he did not say it, is really due to, thank you, boss, Deputy Chief H. Hannibal O'Brien, who encouraged me to switch from private practice to public defense work, to criminal indigent defense, and I have never regretted a moment of the decision that I made, where I spent 12 years working to help the people of the Virgin Islands. And although Judge Andrews, a few, and I stress few of them, may have been guilty, possibly, just a touch, you realize when you work as a public defender, everybody is a person. There are people who make good decisions. There are people who make bad decisions. There are people where you're like, why am I seeing you here again? But as a public defender, it was the job to try to make them, to help them make better decisions. So you don't have to see them again in the office. You can see them on the street, but not in the office. Because at the end of the day, I have 3 children right now. I have a 6-year-old, soon to be 7. Hi, Nala. I have a 12-year-old. Hi, Micah. And I have a 13-year-old who is struggling because he does not have his device in his hand, and he is going absolutely crazy. Hi, Jaden. But these are my children who are going to grow up in the community that I helped to build. You know, it's easy to throw people away when they make mistakes, but we have to live in the community that we build. The people that we help now will be the people who will be there for our children when they grow up. And that is important. That is a key. So when I see young men and young women who need help, help is what they got. So last night, as I was struggling to try to figure out exactly what I was going to say, and then my darling 12-year-old son, Micah, was having issues with his math homework and decided to involve me in trying to figure out the least, I had to write it down, hold on one second, least common participle using prime factorization. I realized I wasn't going to be able to get through today. So what I want to say is, today is not about me. Today is about you. Unfortunately, not every member of my tribe could be here, but it is about my tribe. And I just want to say that my tribe consists of my parents. My tribe consists of my sister. My tribe consists of my husband, Rupert O. Ross, whom I love dearly. Yes, baby girl. My children, my in-laws, Rupert Ross Jr., who is much more eloquent than I am, by the way, and I would love to have him substitute for me up here, but I was told I cannot do that. And his wife, my mom, Cheryl. My tribe grew, by the way, ridiculously large when I married Rupert because, Lord have mercy. I don't know they haven't met someone they're not related to. It's just people upon people upon people. But I have cousins. Hi, Dwayne. Hi, Glory. I have aunts. Hi, Auntie Maybelline. I have, yeah, I can't even, Rupert said that family's just too big, but hey, Rashida, I see you there. I have public defenders. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Amelia. Hi, Leslie. Saki, what you say? Right? I have assistant attorney generals. Hi, Esther. I have H. Hannibal O'Brien, who has supported me for the 12 years that I worked with him. And I want to say that you said I became a part of your team, and I became a part of the OPD family. You didn't know you became a part of my tribe, but you know now. And George, well, George saw me through marriage, through home ownership, through motherhood. George was just a rock. And when my dad passed, he continued to be a rock. I got judges in my tribe. Yes, you in my tribe. Don't start with me. I have the judges who, when I became a judge, because it's a weird thing to have a different perspective. So I went from, please, Yana, Ogam, Yana, please, Yana. My client, Ogam, Yana. Yana, please. Wait, hold on. Judge Willax, Ogam, no Judge Willax. My poor client, Judge Willax. My client, Judge Willax. To having now people talking to me in a similar fashion. And it's just a weird thing to have to go from begging to deciding. It's just a totally different perspective that I'm still adjusting to, but I want to specifically thank Judge Darrell Dean Donahue. Thank you, sir. And Magistrate Judge Ernest Morris, who couldn't be here today, for their guidance and their assistance. They took me under their wing when I got here. And I just want to say thank you to them both for that. I also do want, since Judge Andrews went through a whole list, I could just point out that Judge Andrews, Judge Steele, and Judge Ross were the judges that I clerked for during the summers and then when I finally got out of law school. Everybody in my tribe made sure that I never heard, you can't do this. I never heard that from any of them. I am very, very blessed to have had people in my tribe and still have people in my tribe, because when I was telling them I don't want to do this today, they said, yes, you can. And my tribe always says, yes, I can. Suck it up. Stop complaining. Yes, you can. Hi, Jennifer. I think that as life moves, and it moves so quickly, you don't realize how important it is to have those people constantly supporting you. I think that sometimes, because it's not always active, they're not always saying, come on, you can do it, that we tend to forget that there are people who are there grounding us and supporting us, encouraging us, inspiring us, criticizing us, pushing us, prodding us, pulling us, as the case may be, to be the best that we can be. And again, I have just been awesomely and richly blessed. Hi, PJ. And so what I will do, oh, and I believe my godfather's watching too. If you are, hi, Pepe. And Auntie Carolyn, and just a slew of other people who have just been there for me through thick and thin. Hi, Hyle. Hi, Charles. Just always there. And especially since my father is not here anymore, even though I feel him every day, it is a very strange thing that I have to come to grips with the fact that I have children that my father never met. 2 of my children were born after my father passed. And truth be told, he passed when Jaden was 3 months old. So although he got to hold Jaden, yeah, I know you don't have any recollection. I have a picture though. I got to see him hold at least one of my children. And it brings me joy to know that the last thing I heard from my father actually was his laughter as he drove away, because he had given me a ride to work that day. And I had told him that he needed to come up and do my work instead. And he was busy gloating about the fact that he was retired. And I told him, but I gave you the best years of my life. I raised you. And you decide that you're going to just abandon me in my time of need. Rather than assist me, you want to just go gallivanting, probably to Gallows Bay. And as he drove off, that was the last thing I heard. Him laughing, cackling, because he's going about his business and he know I got a slave in my office. And then he died the next morning. But, and this is just to say that you don't know when your name is going to be called. You don't know when it's going to happen. So you take the time and you enjoy your tribe. All of us, we all have a tribe. We all have a village. We need to take the time and bask in our tribe. Enjoy the moments. we have with our tribe. And I just hope that everyone can have a tribe as awesome as my own. So, what I will ask is that the members of my tribe, can you just all stand for me, please, so that I can applaud you? Please be seated. Thank you guys so much for being here. I want to thank those of you, even if it's just well wishes, all of you who have encouraged me through the years, all of you who have educated me through the years, inspired me through the years, put up with me, although I am an angelic and sweet. And if you get up there and talk about truthfulness, something, it will be me and you. As everyone who knows me can attest to, George, if you chuckle one more again, my sweet, gentle-natured spirit. Not you, Ida. Stop it. I wanna thank you guys for just being there for me through every step, through every progression, through every phase of my life, every milestone of my life, to include this most recent one. Thank you so very much. And I will do my best to honor the investment, the time and the effort. Not that I required much patience from you, but the patience that you used with me. I truly, truly appreciate it. I may not say it all the time. Yes, Jessica, I see you back there nodding. I don't appreciate that. But just thank you from the bottom, from the depths of my heart. I thank you, and I will do my best to make sure that all of your effort, all of the time you spent with me is not wasted. Thank you again.
I'd like to now call to the podium for closing remarks the Honorable Deborah Waddington.
Good afternoon now. So good afternoon, Governor Bryan. Good afternoon, Chief Justice Hodge. Good afternoon, Senator Francis. Good afternoon, our distinguished honorees and invested Judge Andrews and Magistrate Judge Yolande Brown. You didn't include me in the tribe, but I accept your apology. I accept your apology because
Right, I apologize.
public defender, but I was
Chief for part of the time that I was, yes.
But I was accepting your apology for
I'm so sorry.
the abuse that we took for this ceremony. Good afternoon, my administrative judge, Willax, and all of my colleagues, judges of the Superior Court, retired and present, and the District Court, and the Attorney General's Office, the U.S. Attorney Office, the Public Defender Office, and all of you, family and friends. Thank you so much for being here, and I am going to be brief. I know you've heard that word all day, and we're here this afternoon, and I have the unenviable task of being between you and the end of the program, or enviable because I'm the closing remarks, so we know you're coming. You know you're coming to the end. But as I sit here today and listened to all of the remarks, it caused me to reflect on the very importance of this event, an event that some people didn't want. But I think the investiture ceremony today is a necessary formality to honor and recognize Judge Andrews and Magistrate Judge Ross for their achievements and their tremendous responsibilities that they have already undertaken, because as you heard in the commission, they have been on the job. In the case of Magistrate Judge Ross since February of this year, and the Honorable Andrews, Judge Andrews from January of last year. So they've been on the job and they've assumed these responsibilities, and they did it without fanfare. They just did what they had to do. But I think it's important that family, friends, colleagues, and the general public know who our judges are, know how great this honor is to become a judge of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands and a magistrate judge of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands. And I think it's our duty and our responsibility and our privilege to honor them. So on behalf of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, I thank them both for their commitment to serve the judiciary and the community at large. And I thank you for your attendance and your patience for the delay. I mean, the delay really was caused by our pandemic, but for understanding the reason for the delay and being here today. They have earned their robes and gavel. And each of you deserve to witness their addition to the honor roll of judges and magistrate judges of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands. It is equally important that the public knows our judges and that our children know our judges and know that hard work has its rewards, and that they know that they need not look very far to be inspired. Just look around. Look around here. Look at the members of our judiciary, the members of the legal community. You don't have to look very far to be inspired. We are confident that these judicial officers, like others on the bench already, have the 4 essential qualities that Socrates described of a good judge: to hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and decide impartially. So I thank them again, and I thank you again for being here. I cannot close today, though, without acknowledging the members of the Investiture Committee and other court employees who volunteered to help with this ceremony today. Without the hard work and efforts of all of our staff, this would not have been such a memorable and wonderful occasion. So I want to convey to all our staff that we really appreciate you and your efforts and could not have done this without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And finally, as Judge Willax began, I will end, because I cannot end today without giving a very special thank you to the General of Investiture Ceremonies, Ms. Glendia Keynes. Please stand, Ms. Keynes, our Court Services Administrator. She will be retiring the end of this year. She will be retiring the end of this year, and I just wanted to publicly thank her for all of her efforts during this investiture ceremony and many others that she has commandeered before. So thank you, Ms. Keynes, and thank you all for being here today and participating in this event. And I invite you to join us for our luncheon at the end of the ceremony, and the honorees also will be taking pictures with their special guests as well. So thank you and have a good day.
At this time, let me close by indicating my gratitude. Thank you all for letting me participate. Oh man, to bring me out of retirement to say these things, my heart is overwhelmed. I want to thank everybody here. We're the one family, we're the ways of one sea, we're the leaves of one tree. And at this time, yes, that word is to now invite Reverend Franklin to the podium. Yes?
Now, please kindly stand. We're going to ask God to bless the three branches of government, the three leading branches of government. Thank you guys for everything you've done and doing for us. We appreciate you. We're going to sing Spirit of the Living God. Can we extend a hand to these people, please? Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on them. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on them. Melt them, mold them, fill them, use them. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on them. Thank you very much. Everybody, thank you. Have a blessed day. Thanks for coming. God bless you.
This invocation is now adjourned.